Hi, this is Enid, Senior Culture Writer of the South China Morning Post. I am in Venice, covering the 57th edition of the world's biggest international art exhibition. We'll be making a few videos over the next couple of days so we can show you glimpses of the Venice Biennale, and we are starting here at the Hong Kong Pavilion. This year, the artist representing Hong Kong is Samson Young. He's a classically trained composer and multimedia visual artist. The theme or the title of his exhibition this year is Songs for Disaster Relief. We'll take you on a walkthrough of the exhibition, speak to the artist Samson Young and curator Kwok Ying in a moment. But first, a bit of context. Songs for Disaster Relief is based on the idea of charity singles. These are songs recorded by famous pop stars, celebrity singers to raise money and awareness for disaster relief efforts or other big, terrible problems that the world is facing. And the most famous example is probably the 1984 recording, Do They Know It's Christmas, followed by the 1985 recording, We Are the World, both in aid of the Ethiopian famine disaster relief efforts. Now, when you try and use this method to do good, it's not uncontentious. So cynics would say that, hey, this only feeds into the multi-billion-dollar music industry, or the songs can be patronizing or culturally insensitive even. And Samson's own ambivalence towards this genre is what prompted him to make this exhibition. Right, let's go. Let's have a look at the artwork. This is the courtyard of the Hong Kong Pavilion, and we see here a tri-colored platform, which is kind of based on a platform that a choir would stand on when they perform, except this is really treacherous. It's uneven, it's all over the place. And then behind it, you see this rather intriguing quote attributed to Chairman Mao: "The world is yours, but also ours, but basically yours." Take that quote as you may. And the first group of work is called Palazzo Gandani, which is spread over 2 rooms. Now this needs a little bit of explaining, if you can bear with me. Boomtown Gundani is a fictional singer who made a response to the 1984 song Do They Know It's Christmas with his own song called Yes We Do. Now, Boomtown Gundani, this fictional character, is now living in Dakota, America, and not doing very well. And Samson has created these visual elements representing Boomtown Gundani and his work. And this is, if you can see through the glass, this is a 3D printed sculpture which looks like a bronze work with some very intriguing elements, that's supposed to be Pythagoras. I think there's a bust of Ronald Reagan somewhere, and these are all supposed to be people, ideas influencing Boomtown Gundani, who is rather mad apparently, but still making both video and musical works. Now, Boomtown Gundani's favorite holiday is Christmas, and he only sings songs about Christmas. We'll be able to go and visit his front lounge in a minute. It's a bit dark, but I'll just tell you very quickly what you're about to see. There are videos with animated characters taken from the album cover of the 1984 record Do They Know It's Christmas, and you can see Boomtown Gundani singing in Dakota in an oil field about Christmas. So let's go in and take a look. Again. again. This is Enid from the South China Morning Post in the Hong Kong Pavilion of the 57th edition of the Venice Biennale. This is another section of Samson Young's exhibition, Songs for Disaster Relief. What we see here is a performance by the Federation of Trade Union Choir, and they're singing Do They Know It's Christmas. We'll see them come on in a minute. Now, the special thing about this performance is that it is soundless. You will hear something, you'll hear whispering. It's kind of eerie, but it of course refers to Samson's previous works, where he shows us images of what are usually very, well, noisy, sound-based activities like lion dance, but he erases the noise. Okay, watch this now. Sorry, I think I said they're singing Do They Know It's Christmas? But in fact, they're singing We Are the World, a 1985 song written for the Life Aid concerts to raise money and awareness for the Ethiopian famine. And also one of the key examples of charity singles, this genre that prompted Samson Young to make an exhibition as a response to, well, how sometimes when we try and do good, it's not always good. Let's go and see the final section of the exhibition, Disaster for Song Relief. This is the Hong Kong exhibition for this year's Venice Biennale. And you're going to see a video of, well, that's the back of Samson Young. And he is singing. I'm afraid we can't, you won't be able to hear the audio, but he is singing the song Bridge Over Troubled Water with numbers. So instead of sticking with the original lyrics or the translated Cantonese lyrics that were used for a charity single that Hong Kong musicians recorded to raise funds for the Eastern China flood in the 1990s, he is singing it with numbers. Why? It's because it's a reminder of how, you know, when you watch these charity shows, the host always remind you of the donation hotline. It's also a reminder of the sort of the musical nature of the Cantonese language as well, the nine-toned language. And it's quite apt that he's bobbing up and down in a sampan, because it refers to the fact that, you know, Hong Kong was very enthusiastic in its response to help out after the terrible floods in China in the 90s. In fact, charity singles as a concept has been adopted very enthusiastically by Hong Kong. Right, let's go and try and track down Samson Young, the artist, and curator Kwok Ying. Let's say hello to the curator. Kwok, hi. Welcome to the SCMP video coverage of the Venice Biennale. I'm with curator Kwok, who is here with me in the Hong Kong Pavilion. We are outside, we're in the courtyard, and the first section of Samson Young's work, Songs for Disaster Relief. So tell me, how has the response been? I suppose today is just the first day, so we haven't had a lot of visitors yet. But what are people saying to you about the exhibition?
Well, the response has been really positive. People like the way how we treat the venue. It's like we maintain the original feature and the character, but we also bring in a lot of our story, our work. People also realize that there is so many different textures in this exhibition, and I think that is quite a nice notice, and we like what people been talking about it as well.
It's a joy to experience, and thank you for helping Samson put this together. And how do you
Experience for me as well.
How do you yourself feel about the concept behind it? The idea of charity singles, the idea of trying to do good, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's like, in general, when I first heard about this concept, I think it's a very interesting thing to explore. I didn't realize how odd it is until Samson mentioned it. And also I like it. It's not something coming from nowhere. It was something stuck in his brain, stuck in his heart for 2 years. Because it is something he had been thinking but not really get into more research until now. So I think that is a good way to put on an ambitious show that is really consistent from what you've been working and interested.
Right.
Have you been saying nice things about me?
Lovely things, and here we are joined by Samson Young, the artist behind Songs for Disaster Relief, which is Hong Kong's presentation in this year's Venice Biennale. Samson, it's a wonderful, sort of super creative, amazing show to see, and in the center of this is this character called Boomtown Gandani. Tell us a little bit about your relationship with him.
I found out about this character when I was researching on Do They Know It's Christmas, the song, and I read about somebody from Cape Town producing a response version to the song, and I initially wanted to get in touch with this musician who had made the response song, only later to find out that this did not actually happen. It was fake news that had circulated on the internet several times, which then became and had been reposted as real news, which I then saw. So I kind of just ran with it and invented this fictional character. He is sort of a little bit autobiographical. There's sort of bits of family histories worked into his characterization, but he's basically this crazy man who is a singer or aspiring singer-composer who lives in the boomtown of Williston, North Dakota.
Fake news, disaster relief. These are all, kind of very topical issues of the day, and perhaps also a reminder that the world used to respond to disasters in other countries, perhaps more charitably. But I understand that you don't see this particular work as particularly, timely project. It's not a project that is a response to anything that's happening in the world today. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think when audience visit exhibitions, they see themselves and what they're thinking also. But it's also true that me and Ying decided on the topic basically in September last year, before anything happened, before Trump, before Brexit, before anything that is currently on our mind and on the news on a daily basis. So yeah, it was not sort of like a topical response, but it's rather been something that I've been thinking for a while now, thinking about for a while now.
It also occurred to me, looking at the show, that it kind of corresponds to the main theme of this year's Venice Biennale as well. The Biennale, the theme is Viva Art Viva, and it wants to focus on, you know, what artists have to say about the world we live in, and why artists choose to be artists and make art. And this is, to me, a sort of an answer to that. Do you agree?
I think one thing Samson has been working on, the way what he say about it is like, if we know about everything, and if we are trying to find an answer, we won't make art. And I think the spectrum of art allow us to work on something unknown, and it's a way maybe not to find the answer, because we don't always find the answer, but at least to understand the world or our surrounding in a better way.
Thank you to you both. There's one more thing I want to show you before we go. Now, remember this quote, this rather intriguing quote at the beginning: "The world is yours, but also ours, but basically yours," which is attributed to Chairman Mao. Now, if we come over here and look at the wall, the brick wall on the other side of the canal, we see another quote that Samson Young has put up. Now, I don't know if you can read it. It's the words in silver. It says, "Why have you forsaken me?" Now, that is a rather thought-provoking response to that first quote. So I'll finish here our coverage of the Hong Kong Pavilion for now. This is Enid of the South China Morning Post.